Hey everybody, Devin here. It's been quite some time, right? Long time. But there's been some interesting things for me that's happened probably in the last month, and I felt like I want to talk about it a little bit because I'm seeing history repeat itself. So some of you probably know and heard, because it's been out for like a week, 2 weeks now, Canonical is dropping Unity. I'm hearing Mir, though I don't think that was originally listed in Mark Shuttleworth's initial release, but and I'll kind of explain how we know Mir is going to go wayside. Ubuntu Phone, Ubuntu Touch, Unity 8, like it's all like gone, right, or going away. And I've been seeing some pretty mixed reviews on the subject. Like I see some people are pretty happy about this. I see some people are very upset by this. Some people are like, I think mainly upset because they loved Unity so much. And I'm seeing a lot of people say like, this will be the end of Ubuntu. Now, and I'm seeing this primarily over, I do a lot of reading and I do post quite a bit over on OMG Ubuntu. The guy who owns that, and I can't think of his name right now, he does a great job just keeping up with Linux news. And it's not always just Ubuntu based. And majority it is, that's the purpose of the site, but he just does overall like a really good job keeping up with things. And people are like blowing this up, and it's a good thing. It is. Now, first off, the point of this video is, one, I'm going to show you that I was surprised but not shocked. I've seen this coming for a while now, and I'm going to show you what was my big hinters to this. I'm going to give you my thoughts. I'm going to sit down and say, guys, this is why it's not such a big deal. And I'm going to show you the part where history is just repeating itself in terms of community reaction to this subject. Okay? So first off, let's get into the part how I see this coming. Now, there were steps that have happened over the last 12 months that I did not put together, say weeks before this news came out and went, oh yeah, Canonical is going to be doing this. It was more or less that when I read the article, there was that instant surprise, like, oh my God, they're doing it. And then I went, oh yeah, but come on, all this stuff is just kind of making sense. And I'm going to show you 3 key articles that I've read over the last 12 months, maybe even 6 months, I don't know. Well, we could look at the dates on them. And it's just like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. So let's go ahead, let's open up a browser. So the first one looks like it came out February of last year. Okay, and here's the thing you guys gotta understand. A lot of people think companies just make this like random, like knee-jerk reaction. They don't. I'm willing to bet you that Canonical has been thinking about this, working on this, and considering it for a long time. So the first one, Mutiny, Ubuntu Mate 1604 adds Unity-style desktop layout. Okay. Now, when this article first launched, basically it's about how to take Ubuntu Mate and easily convert it into a Unity desktop. When this article first launched, I more or less was thinking that the Mate developers were prepping themselves for the launch of Unity 8. Why? Because as Linux users, we have a hard time letting go of something we really like. And I was pretty sure when Unity 8 launched, someone was going to fork Unity 7, and you would be able to get the optional Unity 7 on multiple distributions. And all of a sudden, when it's forked by a community member, we'll see like mass adoption at the desktop. But the reason this article, to me, makes sense in how this was foreshadowing, if you guys don't know this, the project manager and the head of the Ubuntu Mate project, he's a Canonical employee. So if he might have found out that, Canonical's considered dropping Unity 8 and all this other good stuff, I could see him doing this. And I tell you what, if I ever got to talk to the gentleman, and I don't know his actual like full name, I just know that when you do see him in interviews or on other like Linux shows, he goes by the name of Popey. If I ever got to meet Popey, I would personally thank him, because I'm tired of forking every flipping thing. There's some things, cool, let's fork it. There's a lot of things we don't need to fork. And Unity 7 was something I did not want to see get forked. So I tell you what, like I would really thank him for this, because when this does go down, for people who do want to use Unity 7, they now have a way to do it. It doesn't have to get forked. And when you actually look at how Ubuntu Mate works on a community level, I think they're a phenomenal distribution. I wish more Linux distributions were like them. This will help them grow in terms of user base. So the next one, and these may not be in any necessary order. Ubuntu phone on pause, no new devices, no major updates, planned update. So here's the thing, okay? So if Canonical is rapidly working on this new phone platform, right, updates are going to be critical. They're going to be crucial. They need to keep it rolling quick, okay? But basically in this article, they talk about how they're not going to be doing any new feature updates. Now, if you do read, they are talking about, they claim one of the issues is snaps. They've got to get snaps working in the phones. And then there is going to be some, some security updates. Snaps, to me, is very crucial. Okay, Snaps to me is one of the better open source universal package managements out there. And I'm not saying Flatpaks is, and I'm not saying AppImage. AppImage, I think, is the best right now in terms of how it works. But I really do think Snaps is going to be the future. And I think that's one of the, other than the Ubuntu desktop and Ubuntu server, this is going to be one of Canonical's big hits. And I'm not going to get into it. I'm not downing Flatpaks because I know people get really upset about that. But there are some podcasts I listen to where developers have talked about the differences, and many of them say we lean towards Snaps mainly due to ease of use, and also the fact that Snaps recognize the desktop being used and work with the design of the desktop, keeping that, that look. I guess Flatpaks don't do that, but arguably, even if you're working on Snaps, you should continue to develop out the phone. And so, this article, the guy who wrote this, he got kind of accused of clickbait because he's, initially, if I remember right, the way the article looked is like the phone's dead. I mean, come on, look at the picture, that kind of stuff. And even the first line, Ubuntu phone is dead, long live Ubuntu phone. And that might have been added after the fact, but either way, it just wasn't a good sign for a platform that needs to launch and couldn't. Last but not least, and this was very light foreshadowing, how much new GNOME 3 integration the last LTS received. The store was a big one. And I think at the time, yet again, I didn't draw the conclusion because my logic was, the Ubuntu store that I think I remember using in either 10.04 or 10.10 was just great because we actually had a GUI store now. By 2014, when I used the Ubuntu 14.04 release, was just feeling old. It was buggy. It was crashing. So to me, when I saw them release the GNOME software store on Ubuntu, I kind of sat back and I went, it's needed. I didn't think about it, but you start to draw all of these pieces in, all these parts about all of the Canonical finally updating the applications in Unity to the latest version or newest version they could of GNOME 3. The Ubuntu phone is on pause due to snaps, and then the fact that someone who works at Canonical who has his own flavor of Ubuntu, because it is an official supported flavor by Canonical, the Ubuntu Mate, is making it where it's going to run Unity, make it look like it's a Unity 7 desktop. So to me, when I read the article about Unity's death and a phone's death and so on and so forth, I kind of, like I said, there was that initial, I knew it was going to come, but I wasn't expecting it yet. But then I started thinking about all the articles I was reading, and I was like, I just kind of felt like Canonical was dying slowly on the desktop side. Server Canonical's doing fine, but desktop, I really felt like they were dying. Now, the part that I found interesting, and let's see if we can get to it, to me, it kind of blew me away. I like Unity 7 as much as the next guy, right? I do. But what I found interesting, let's see, where is it? Was how many people, let's see, let's download now, gorgeous flavors, things, must be on the next page. I think what really shocked me was how upset people are that people are upset that Unity's going away. I mean, legitimately, maybe it's in this one. They're upset. People are actually upset. And some of you may be like, well, dude, it was a great desktop. Everyone liked Unity. And it was great. And if you go into this article here, it looks like, you know, if you just head over to OMG Ubuntu and in the search bar type in what's next Ubuntu, or go to the second page, people, they're a little angry about this. And now part of this boils down to some people just aren't happy with the choice that Canonical is going with GNOME. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here's the reality. Okay, even Unity was a fork of the GNOME desktop. Okay, it was a flippin' fork of the GNOME desktop. So it would just be flippin' weird if the 1804 release of Ubuntu was going to be based on KDE, being the fact that Ubuntu has been using some form of GNOME since the beginning. Like, that would just be really flippin' weird, in my opinion. But people, you know, some people are saying it's okay. Others, it's bad. Like, people, you know, are really, really upset by this, and it's disappointing. It's you know, it is what it is. And I'm not going to go through all of these to find them, but there are some people who are like claiming that this will be the end of Canonical. Like, go over to OMG Ubuntu, and hell, I haven't even hit the Ubuntu forums. Now, I was a member of the Ubuntu forums, and I still am, but like long time ago. And I'm going to show you some relations, because I remember when Unity first hit Ubuntu. I mean, I've been using Ubuntu since 8.04 when it first launched, right? Well, about a month or two after it first launched. And I remember Unity coming to Ubuntu, and I'll tell you right now, the consensus was generally the same, okay? And here, I'm going to show you some of that. So let's first go here. Ubuntu 11.04 to ship Unity as default desktop. Now, for some of you who need a history lesson, and by the way, if you're kind of curious, let's see if it'll pull it up. No, and it might be just because it's too old. That was the original Unity desktop right there. Unity originates even older than this. Ubuntu used to have something called Ubuntu Remix, or Netbook Edition, or maybe it was Ubuntu Remix Netbook Edition. You know, one of the problems is back in 2009, 2010, netbooks were becoming extraordinarily popular. And the problem with the GNOME desktop is, like, you know, like me, I had a Dell Mini 9. It's a 9-inch display. The GNOME 2 desktop did not, I mean, it worked, but text was very hard to read. It was kind of a little bit of a challenge. So Canonical, in their infinite wisdom, created this netbook edition that made icons bigger, text bigger, everything rendered bigger. And unfortunately, though, it wasn't a huge product, so the product actually sucked. So Ubuntu 11.04 to ship as the default desktop. And you guys go through here, okay, and you're going to see the same thing that people are complaining about now. Like, this is the end, or this product is horrible. Why would people use this? They should be sticking with GNOME, right? And it goes through it just time after time. The Ubuntu 11.04 release, people were, in this article, were pissed off. I mean, just angry people. And, you know, actually, I don't even think I was reading OMG Ubuntu back in this time. I was actually a member of the Ubuntu forums. And I'm telling you, if you could have a web forum riot, that is what happened on the Ubuntu forums. People were like, just stick with GNOME 2 if you have to. Like, we don't even care if it's officially being supported by the GNOME devs. We don't care. Just keep flipping using it. People were freaked out, literally. And what I think is hilarious is that people are starting to do the same thing now that Canonical is going back to GNOME. It's just hilarious. Now, let's go over what I think here, okay? And this is just, you know, my thoughts on this. And actually, I'll bring up another article to help reinforce my thoughts here, because it is it's pretty important. So in this article here, how Linux figures reacted to Ubuntu Unity bombshell. I'll leave this up here for a minute. You know what? I think it's one of the best decisions Canonical has made in a very long time. And I want to make this very clear. I loved Unity 7. I really did. I thought Unity 7 was great. Back on 12.04. Arguably 14.04. 16.04, you started to see that maintenance mode becoming a problem. And for some of you who don't understand what I'm saying, they were so busy working on Unity 8, Unity 7 was barely being supported anymore. Okay? And one of my problems with that is I was having a ton of graphical issues that I could specifically link to Unity because I could run Ubuntu Gnome, which is what I'm running now. I could run Kubuntu, I could run Ubuntu Mate, and not have a single problem with it. And a lot of it was an attempt to use Linux in the enterprise environment. I was trying to use a Linux desktop in the enterprise environment, and Unity it wasn't usable. It wasn't. I put it on that Dell docking station and it wouldn't work. And to me that's kind of hilarious because Dell actually ships on like 4 or 5 different machines, a combination of I think like all-in-ones and laptops, Ubuntu with the Unity desktop. And I would dock my Dell laptop into the docking station and it'd run all right, but I was constantly having graphical issues all the time. But if I ran another flavor of Ubuntu, not a single issue. And I don't remember having these problems in the past with Unity. So to me, that says that Unity needed to either have a huge amount of work done to it to bring it back up with the times, or it's time to let it die. Now, switching to GNOME brings some good scenarios for us. One, Canonical, in many of the articles, if you've been reading them, talks about how Canonical is looking to move towards more of a profit model. Now, guys, they're not a non-profit company. This makes sense, okay? They want to make money. And they've tried to make money on the Ubuntu desktop for as long as I can remember. And because we're not a community who likes supporting the corporate world, it has failed. I mean, they've tried through application sales in an app store on the desktop, did not go well. They've tried through a music store, did not go well. They tried offering a cloud solution, did not go well. I mean, like legitimately, these poor guys have tried. These guys have tried time and time and time again. And so let's assume Ubuntu, all they do at this point for us is give us a solid desktop with as many packages as they can offer for us to have available to install, and this GNOME desktop. Well, at least I know that if I'm the type of person who jumps from LTS to LTS, the GNOME desktop at this point in the game, guys, it's not changing a whole lot. It's going to get feature updates, it's going to get bug fixes and security patches and all that other good jazz, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be, how do I put this? It's not going to like epically change where, oh God, it's a new release, I have no idea where anything is anymore. Like, it's still going to be there. But the beauty of it is, we're now at least on a desktop that is continually being developed to be used for tomorrow, not 5 years ago. Okay? And I think that puts us in a better position. Now, like some other people pointed out, I don't like GNOME. I don't want to use GNOME. And guess what? That's cool. That's why Canonical has what's called its Ubuntu flavors. They're officially supported. So you could go get yourself, like Ubuntu Mate, Lubuntu, Xubuntu. I don't think Kubuntu anymore is an official flavor and hasn't been for years. But they still use the Ubuntu base, the Ubuntu packages, and they put KDE on it. Same with Project Neon. Project Neon's a little bit different of a concept, but overall, like that's what they do, okay? That's what they do. So you guys still have that availability to go get your favorite desktop on Ubuntu. Like, you haven't lost that function. And like I showed you, you guys can come over here. I'm sure it's documented on multiple places of the web. If you were to type in something like how to make Ubuntu Mate look like Unity, you'll probably find a ton of articles on what little switches you got to turn on to make it do this. And guess what? You have your Unity desktop back. Okay, so these guys were looking out for you at the time. The other thing I see this doing is, you guys have to understand, like, I've been using Ubuntu since 8.04. At one point, Ubuntu may have always kind of grinded on some companies' gears, like SUSE or Red Hat, because they're a competitor. But at the end of the day, I remember using like Ubuntu 8.04, 10.04, and people were like, God, Ubuntu's awesome, it's great. They were pretty much well respected. Well, at the time of announcing things like Unity, Mir, arguably they are still pissing some people off with the Snap packages, right? But you know what? You know what I'm going to say about Flatpaks? Snap beat you by 3 weeks. So you can't say there was something in place for Canonical to follow there. Canonical actually did release something first, because AppImage still has a lot of issues in terms of longevity, in my opinion. But either way, the fact of Mir, the fact of Unity alone, pissed off a lot of open source advocates. Why? Because Canonical, who is this company that has a huge desktop base, if they're not using the GNOME 3 desktop, they're taking away possible people who may report bugs, people who may create fixes from that project. Mir, yet again, I still will defend them on Mir because Wayland wasn't doing anything. Like, seriously, when they announced Mir, Wayland had been in the same spot for like 3 years flipping straight. And it was so far behind in development that Canonical literally could write one from scratch with about the same amount of effort they would have had to if they were the only developers on Wayland. What ended up happening, though, is when they created Mir, it kick-started the Wayland development process. Like, it really did. It kick-started it. And that's the only reason you guys can almost thank Canonical for Mir why Wayland is where it is today. Because if Canonical would have just picked up Wayland or tried to make X work on mobile, Wayland would still not be anywhere today. Honestly, I remember reading the article where Canonical announced Mir, and like a week later, all of a sudden, Red Hat's firing its developers up on Wayland. Intel at one point was putting developers up on Wayland. Like, it was flipping ridiculous. It really was. So, in a sense, Mir did have an upside. It got Wayland to get somewhere. Okay? But look at this. And this is the thing I love about open source. This is the thing I love about the community. There are people at Red Hat. There are people at GNOME. There are people at System 76 who are saying, awesome, this is great news, welcome back. I mean, seriously, guys, like, this is awesome. And you have to understand, it probably took Canonical a lot to say, we just wasted fucking 5 years of our time. 5 years of our time. Period. It is what it is. But they're going to be using a desktop that, even if they don't do as much with Ubuntu as they used to in the past, at least at this point, 5 years go by, and GNOME will be considerably different in terms of the amount of features and functions it has. And Canonical will officially then be fully a part of the open source community again. And they've always been open source, and they've always been part of the community. But if you haven't noticed, there was a steady trend here for many years of Canonical kind of going off to do its own thing. It may fork something, it may create something of its very own, and there were a lot of people who didn't really care for that. I think in this case, in this scenario, this is going to bring Canonical back into the fold with a lot of the communities that almost felt left behind back when Unity shipped in 2011. And for those of you who think this is still the end, I'm telling you, I've been using Ubuntu since 8.04. I remember the days of 11.04, and I'll tell you right now, 11.04 sucked. If anyone asks you, has Linux ever had its own version of Vista? Ubuntu 11.04 and 11.10 was our Vista. Constantly crashing, just sucked overall. Performance was horrible. It was just dark times. But there, I'll tell you, I remember watching riots on the forum. Riots on the flippin' forum on this subject. So, anyway, guys, that's my video. I'm wanting to do another video on the new Windows 10 Creators Update, and not the OS itself. I want to go over some of the privacy stuff on there and kind of talk about my issue with it. And some of you are like, well, yeah, Devin, it's a privacy concern. Of course you're concerned. No, it kind of pisses me off on a more philosophical issue. For some of you who don't know, I'm an IT system administrator. I work for a company. And of course, guys, whether you like it or not, we use the Windows 10, we use Windows Desktop. We do. We use the Windows Desktop. And there's quite a few things that Microsoft has done in the last month, both with the Creators Update and some of the new hardware support issues. I have an issue with both from a licensing standpoint. Okay, yeah, Microsoft has violated their own licensing. And the other aspect is what I like to oftenly call double dipping. And I'll cover that in a video at some point. We'll pull up the license, we'll pull up all this stuff and kind of go over it. In terms of desktop reviews, guys, as you notice, it's like every 8 months I'm about at it. There are some distributions that I've kind of been playing with in the time of my last set of videos that I would like to show off, like Project Neon. And one that is an interesting concept, and I hope I don't get lashback for it, but React OS. And some of you may be like, why would you get lashback? Because it's a Windows clone. But there's something about it that it strikes me not to use as a daily driver. Please don't go out and install it on bare metal today. But anyway, we'll see what comes of it. At a minimum, I will get a video done sometime on the Windows 10 Creators Update and be relevant. It's got to be kind of soon. The other ones we'll see. But anyway, if you guys disagree with anything that I had to say today, go ahead and comment below. I actually like to, keep it friendly. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying, but you don't need to get on there and be rude. like I said, a lot of this is opinionated. A lot of this was just my observation and then my thoughts. At the end of the day, we're not going to know for 5 years, right? But anyway, thanks guys for watching.